A long time ago, a famous blacksmith lived in this region. He owned a store where he sold his handmade ironware. Amidst an endless war, it was an incredible chance for him to raise his status. One day, he got lucky enough to sell his equipment to the Cairo kingdom. After the war concluded, that blacksmith was awarded the position of a baron. That blacksmith became the lord of this land, young Master Roman's father. A servant named Hans watched the scene, thinking to himself, geez, so the lord, why is he listening to a story everyone knows? A few hours ago, Roman stood looking confused and pale. You're telling me that I'm the eldest son of the Dmitri family? Roman asked Hans, and that this is the Cairo kingdom in the Salamander continent. A world called Murim doesn't exist here. Hans, sweating nervously, confirmed these facts. Yes, that's right, young master. Hans thought the young master was acting very strange. While he had never been bright, this was the first time he seemed so off. Hans watched Roman slump onto the couch and wondered, is he stoned? Drugs are popular among noble children these days. Yeah, if it's him, it's possible. Hans tried to regain Roman's focus. Young master, today is the day that your fiancée, the lady of the Lawrence family, visits. Hans inwardly lamented Roman's infamous reputation as the moron of Dmitri, having been rotting away in his room for 25 years, unlike his brothers. Hans reminded him that the lady of Lawrence valued elegance and manners, so they needed to prepare. Roman interrupted him abruptly. There's something more important than that. He stood up and gave a direct command. Bring me to the eldest person of this territory. Pardon, Hans asked, completely baffled. To me, this lady person is less important than learning more about this world that I must start living in, Roman declared. Hans, although bewildered by this sudden shift, resigned himself to his duty. I understand, young master, he said. Back in the present, the old man who had recounted the history finished his tale. This is all that I know, he said. Roman, sitting cross-legged on the floor, responded, thanks. It was a big help. I'll reward you for this later. The old man bowed. It was an honor to even be able to talk to you. Roman sat contemplating. Roman Dmitri. Internally, the man in Roman's body revealed his identity. My original name is Bekjongyuk. He was a person of Murim who had lived a fierce life and had peacefully accepted his death after fulfilling everything. Now, he found himself awakened in Roman Dmitri's body. He wondered, is this the will of the heavens, or is it God's punishment for me for refusing ascension? Suddenly, a loud crash and shouting interrupted his thoughts. You bastard, just fucking die. A voice screamed from outside. Outside, a group of thugs was viciously kicking a young man on the ground. A crowd looked on in fear. Ha, you filthy brat, a large, bald thug sneered. Roman walked out, with Hans following nervously, pushing through the crowd. Excuse me, passing through, Hans said. Hans suddenly stopped, his eyes widening as he spotted a tattoo on the large thug's arm. Ah, that tattoo of Fang's is. What is it? Roman asked. Young master, Hans explained. It seems to be Blood Fang. Blood Fang, Hans explained. They're an usury group that acts not only in the Dmitri territory, but also in nearby territories. Hans surmised, it looks like that boy is in large debt to Blood Fang. Hans, terrified of the notorious loan sharks, suggested, let's just act like we saw nothing. There's no good in getting. Stop, Roman commanded. The thugs paused their beating and looked. Over, Hans stammered. Why young master? The thugs recognized him. Roman Dmitri, the bald thug said. He laughed derisively. Wahaha, stepping up because your nobility. Roman stared at them coldly. Stop it, my ass. Kekeki, the thug mocked. Don't mind us, young master Dmitri, since this is our business. Hans pulled at Roman's sleeve. Oh my, young master Roman, we must get going. The blood fang is vicious. So let's. Hans, Roman said calmly. I still don't know much of the laws of this place. So explain, who broke the law here? Hans was stunned into silence. And what punishment is befitting for them? Roman pressed. Hans, sweating profusely, answered, since the boy was in debt and was unable to repay them in time, he is in the wrong but Bloodfang doesn't have the right to take care of that themselves. Roman nodded. And what's more important is they disrespected you, the eldest son of the Dmitri family, Roman stated. That is a crime that is worth your life. Hans admitted, according to territorial law, it's not strange at all for them to receive capital punishment. Roman turned back to the thugs, gripping the wooden stick he had picked up. Did you hear that? You have broken this land's law, he said. Thus, holding the stick like a sword, Roman declared, I, the eldest son of Lord Romero Dmitri, will now bestow punishment upon you all. The bald thug smirked. I understand that you're a noble who doesn't know how the world works, but you're putting us in a real tight spot. The thugs brandished their weapons. If you talk to us, who have fang tattoos, with that kind of attitude, that proves it, the thug said, signaling his men. Huh, what are you saying? Roman asked. You lot are trash, Roman declared. If you'd speak like this even to the master of this land, then I have no need to know your usual conduct. Roman lunged forward with explosive speed. The thugs gasped. Attack him, the leader shouted. Roman moved effortlessly, dodging a knife and striking a thug in the face with the stick. The impact was brutal, blood splattered. The thug groaned as he collapsed. Hans watched in disbelief. Why you, Kyuk, the defeated thug moaned. Bastard, the other thugs shouted, rushing at Roman with knives. Young master, Hans screamed. Hiya, a thug yelled, swinging his weapon. Roman dodged easily. Wah, the thug gasped. In a blur of motion, Roman smashed the stick into the thug's head with tremendous force. What? Another thug watched in horror. As that person, really young master Roman. As the fight raged, Baek Jong-hyuk recalled the moment he arrived in this world. What I first saw when I opened my eyes was a will written by Roman and multiple drugs on the floor. Roman, having been chosen to serve the kingdom as a representative during frequent wars, had killed himself out of fear. It was a pathetic life, Baek thought. But whatever life he lived, the current owner of this body is the leader of the heavenly demon cult, Baek Jong-hyuk. As long as I've taken over this body, I'm going to live Baek Jong-hyuk's way. Roman stood amidst the beaten, groaning bodies of the thugs. He looked at the leader, his eyes cold. Monster, the thug whispered. Roman grabbed the bald thug by the head. Ah, the thug screamed, gasped, let go of me. Roman slammed him down, cuck. In order for a group to act accordingly, there is a need to enforce the law, Roman stated, holding a blade to the thug's arm. Although I won't take your life, you must still pay the price for running your mouth. Ah, the thug grunted as Roman sliced into his arm. The thug screamed in agony. Kyuk. Roman stood over him. My name is Roman Dmitri. He addressed the remaining, terrified group. If any of you didn't like the punishment I gave them, then you can come look for me anytime. Baek Jong-hyuk reflected on his past life, where he had reached the pinnacle of Murim with overwhelming power, leading to the world acknowledging the heavenly demon cult's rule. But now, Roman looked at his bloody, trembling hand. He concluded, I have to go back and forth multiple times, just to take care of a few street rats. He turned to his servant. Hans. Why yes. Hans flinched, terrified. Call the guards, report what happened here to them, and get them to send some forces to clean this up. Hans gulped, still in shock. I understand. This body sure is useless. Can you imagine? Our protagonist looking at his own hands and thinking, it doesn't have much ki and its flow is horrible. He's already a master of self-critique. So, he sets a grim task for himself. He knows he can't stay this week. His first priority is chillingly strategic. I must quickly gather information and undergo skeletal metamorphosis to create the base. But before he can start his intense spiritual makeover, he's interrupted. A terrified, grateful voice cries out, "Young master." A man stumbles into the scene, falling at his feet. "Thank you, for saving me, really," the man pleads. Our protagonist just eye rolls internally, thinking, is he the one who got beat up? Now, the hero needs to set the record straight. He looks the grateful man dead in the eye and tells him, "Don't get the wrong idea. I didn't do it to help you." Ouch, cold. He clarifies his actions were purely about principle. I merely punished the blood-fang bastards for breaking the law. But wait, he's not done. He turns his harsh gaze on the rescued man, informing him, "And you're not an exception." He then issues a very serious demand to his frightened audience of one, "So you're going to have to explain yourself without a single lie. The stakes are made perfectly clear, if you want to keep your tongue." The poor man is terrified but submits instantly. "I understand." He begins his confession, detailing the source of his trouble. "My parents borrowed money from Bloodfang to buy land for farming. He insists the plan was sound. We would have easily been able to repay them if we sold our crops." And then, his frustration finally boils over in a shout, "But those Bloodfang bastards." The man, named Kevin, recounted his tragedy to our protagonist. His crops were destroyed so that he couldn't repay his debt. He later learned that those bastards did it because they were after his younger sister. He cried out that it's not fair, because even though they didn't have much, they never troubled anyone. He begged, "I beg you, please, no, please, at least save my little sister." Our protagonist looked at Kevin, and his eyes reminded him of the Mad Demon, one of the 4 heavenly kings. He realized he had also met the Mad Demon in a rundown place like this. He asked the distressed man his name, and the man replied, "It's Kevin." The man then told Kevin that he would check if he was telling the truth later, and promised that what happened today would be properly taken care of. A month ago, a political marriage was proposed with the Dimitri family. Lady Flora's father explained that their territory was not in a good state, and to overcome this disaster, there was no other way. Flora was distraught, realizing her marriage had been determined just like that. She worried about having to spend the rest of her life with the Dimitri family, which she saw as full of minors. Her father apologized for making that pathetic decision. Flora had initially been supposed to marry the Dimitri's second son, who had a bright future, but that was ruined when the eldest son, Roman Dimitri, demanded to be her marriage partner instead. She considered Roman Dimitri, the moron of Dimitri who lives only for luxury and enjoyment, and wondered why he sprayed so much perfume. Despite being aware of her own territory circumstances, she was determined to tell him today that she couldn't be with him and that she wanted the political marriage to have never happened. When she confronted him, Roman Dimitri surprised her by readily agreeing, saying, "Let us do that." He explained that he had heard about the marriage as well, and believed the moron of Dimitri is not worthy enough to marry someone like you, concluding that it was right to cancel the marriage. When she tried to stop him from immediately telling her father, he asked, "Is there a problem?" Flora, confused because she heard he strongly desired her and was willing to cancel without conditions, asked, "Then do you want to marry me?" He replied with hesitation, "Well, not really." Roman then proposed they not cause each other any more trouble, stating, "We both agreed to cancel the marriage. That's all there's to it." He offered to take full responsibility for breaking the engagement, saying that since he was already called the moron of Dimitri, being called a divorced man would not be a big problem. Flora was left wondering if he was really that rumored moron. Roman Dimitri returned to his father, the Baron, and informed him, "I've already talked with the lady of the Lawrence family. It's just what I told you," causing his father to erupt in anger. The father shouted, calling him a stupid brat, and reminding him that the marriage was the best way to secure their position as nobility. He lamented that Roman couldn't even manage to get married to the beautiful noble lady he desired so much, to which Roman simply replied, "My apologies." The Baron was further enraged, shouting, "Does this look like something an apology can fix?" His father then revealed that if the marriage went through smoothly, he was planning to stop him from getting drafted, but now Roman would have to go to the battlefield in 6 months. Roman replied, "I do not," when asked if he had anything to say. The father also brought up the trouble Roman had with the Bloodfang group, a problem he couldn't do anything about, and told Roman he was now responsible for his own problems and would not get any help. Roman calmly stated, "Understood. I'll deal with it myself." He claimed it was caused by his own actions and he should take care of it. Roman then left, promising to come back after taking care of everything, as his father tried to stop him. Flora found Roman still there after his conversation with his father and expressed her disbelief, asking, "Are you actually insane?" She warned him that Bloodfang was a group not afraid to terrorize nobles and that they would do anything to get back at him. She urged him to go back, tell the Baron the truth, and beg for mercy. Roman simply asked, "Why should I do that?" He then called her presumptuous. Scene shifts to Roman before meeting Flora. He got rid of the smell of blood from his body, sprayed a lot of perfume on his body that was bad enough to distort his expression, and wore a robe that seemed to choke his breath. It was the least he could do to show his courtesy to her. Roman was thinking about breaking up with Flora, but he still didn't want to ruin things by hurting a woman who didn't harm him. However, Flora didn't feel the same way as him. The first day she saw him, the first words she said to him were, "Let's break off our engagement." Looking at the cold expression on her face, Roman knew he didn't need her consideration. "Roman, I know what you mean. However, when proposing to break up the marriage, you didn't think about my circumstances at all, but when I said that I would take on all the responsibility and solve the problem myself, then you're worried. Well, that's not right, is it? From the moment you mentioned breakup, when you first met me, you had no right to worry about my circumstances. We will go our separate ways from now, and as such, let us mind our own businesses." The reason he said he would take full responsibility for it was to prevent any marriage talks that might happen as a consequence after he break the engagement, but it was also because he didn't want to be involved with her anymore. So Flora, this will be the first and last he meet. Rihanna Dimitri, dear, you are drinking too much. You should stop here for today. Baron replies to Rihanna, I used violence against Roman again. When we were commoners, I used to beat him up pretty often. And after we became nobles, I promised myself not to let my child go through that experience again. Rihanna said thanks to that promise, our children grew up without any difficulties. Baron replies, yes, that's true. But what about Roman? He was the only child who went through the hard times with him. He don't know how he should treat Roman. Rihanna said, she don't think violence is the right thing to do. But when a child strays onto the wrong path, only the parent can correct it. So don't fall for the guilt. The Romero Dimitri the first know is a strong man, and he's not the kind of person to sit by and watch his son go astray. Baron said he is not as great as she think. Considering that Roman said he wanted to break off the engagement immediately after Lawrence's daughter's visit, he must have received a message of breaking off the engagement from Flora. And yet, he vented his wrath on Roman. Despite knowing that there was nothing he could do about it, he chose a kind way, not blaming Lawrence. Rihanna said, she know his heart. However, there is still a chance to set things right. Baron asks, are you talking about Bloodfang? Rihanna replied, yes, Roman is a proud child. So, that child must have said that he was going to deal with Bloodfang alone. But if you leave it like this, you never know what will happen. So, you must protect Roman. Baron replied, you are right. Baron asks, is anybody there? Call the Knight's commander, Jonathan, right now. Servant replied, understood, my lord. A few days later, Roman left the inner city. As Hans accompanied him without any security, he followed Roman's steps, but he could not hide his worries. Young master, going out like this is really dangerous. The Bloodfang gang is a heinous group that has also waged terrorism against nobles. They must have been thinking of retaliating against the young master for the last incident, but what would happen if you walk the streets openly and without security? Please head back to the inner city. Roman asked Hans, at what point do you think this Bloodfang group gained this level of power? Hans replied, I don't know. Roman explains, it started by accident. The Bloodfangs once waged wars with the usury powers that opposed them and gained notoriety by brutally killing them. That was the start. Notoriety bred fear, and they realized how efficiently they could use it to get things done. Hans asks, still, it's dangerous, isn't it? Roman replied, it is as long as they can make him afraid. Roman stopped walking. Seeing Roman suddenly entering the restaurant, Hans followed Roman while panicking. The food came out quickly. The variety of foods that filled the table had a fragrant smell, but Roman spoke to Hans in a calm voice. Roman, I'll go out for a while. You should eat and wait here. Hans, what do you mean? Roman, from now on, I have to deal with it myself. You don't have to be in danger. Hans, it can never be. Even if I am in danger, I cannot send you alone. Roman said, you are my person. Am I right? Hans, of course, I am the young master's person. Roman, then do what you can for me. I do not wish for meaningless sacrifices. Doing what you cannot do is not for me, but for your own greed. So all you have to do is sit here and enjoy the food as I commanded you. Just coming out here with me was enough for you to fulfill your role. He will be back soon. Hans repeated Roman's words with a shocked expression on his face. You are my person. He never expected anything like this while serving him. Hans, oh right, I have to let them know about this. Roman reflects on his recent observations about Bloodfang. He notes that the Bloodfang's strength isn't very formidable. However, they are very difficult to hunt down because they operate in small groups. No one is able to lay a hand on them, possibly due to the fear of backlash if they're not completely wiped out, making them a formless force. Since he couldn't find them himself, he decided he needed to make them come to him. He roamed the streets on purpose with Hans to draw them out, believing they would have figured out his location. He recognized that today was their perfect chance because it was the day of the Dmitri Knight Order's regular training, which greatly reduced the amount of security on the streets. The scene shifts to an attempt at revenge from the Bloodfang. Hans finds Captain Jonathan, shouting for his attention and telling him that young Master Roman is in danger and he needs to go find him immediately. Meanwhile, Roman is confronted by an attacker. He manages to block a knife attack and then counterattack, injuring the assailant, who yells out, this basta. Roman then fatally injures the attacker, causing blood to splatter. Two other figures arrive on the scene and are shocked by what they see, with one exclaiming, what the hell? They realize the situation is different from what we heard. Roman, with a blade covered in blood, looks at them and confidently provokes them, saying, what are you guys doing? Come get me. Hans explains that Roman went out to the city without a single guard, intending to fight with Bloodfang. He confirms this to the armed guards. The guards find this idea absurd, laughing and saying, that makes no sense. They mock Roman, calling him the weakest of the weak, and questioning how he could possibly go fight. Hans, clearly frustrated, insists that it's true and asks why he would lie. He urges the guards to move quickly, saying, we don't have time to stand around, and asks them to please help Roman resolve this problem. Suddenly, Captain Jonathan intervenes, reminding there was indeed some trouble between Roman and Bloodfang. He sighs and expresses that the situation sure is a pain. He questions Roman's actions. Sheesh, why is he acting so rowdy when he doesn't even know how to use a weapon? Despite his annoyance in the Lord's request, he takes command, ordering, all forces, arm yourselves immediately. He then instructs Hans to guide them to where the Roman is. He declares their purpose. No one may dare touch young Master Dmitri in our land. He then contemplates the situation. If what Hans said is completely true, then, that moron really did it this time. The scene shifts to a dark alley. Bandit is seen lying on the ground, wounded. Two other bandits stand over him, until a Roman arrives and asks, what are you doing? The cloaked attackers shout, you bastard, and, I'll kill you. As they rush him, a violent confrontation begins. Roman is seen fighting and striking one of the attackers, who cries out. He swiftly takes down the three assailants. Roman stands over the fallen bandits and asks, is it just the three of you? One of the wounded men threatens, if you kill us, you won't be safe either. Roman dismisses the threat, pointing out that, two of you are already dead, and asks if the man is just saying whatever you can. Holding his bloodied knife, Roman gives a final warning, answer wisely to what I ask you. Or else. He then stares down the last surviving attacker and demands, now, who's your leader? Roman walked into a dimly lit establishment. He was greeted by an older, bald man who appeared startled and said, hello, young master. Roman simply replied, hello. Whispers immediately broke out among the patrons. Roman Dmitri. Why did he suddenly come here? It's Roman. Why does he look like that? The older man, who seemed to be the bar owner or bartender, asked, what will it be? Roman placed an unusual order, 27-year-old Tears of Dawn. The bartender apologized, explaining, my apologies but, our bar doesn't have anything like that. He offered to recommend something else. Roman, after a slight pause, accepted, saying, oh. Well, I guess that works. He then requested, get me something strong. He explained his need to get slightly drunk. I have something to do in the morning, so I'm a need to be a bit drunk. We go back in the story where Roman asks to Bandit, Dew of Dawn. Bandit then began to explain the secret code and location for missions. The establishment is a pub, in the middle of the street, where missions are received. The workers at the pub give assignments if a specific code is told to them. The code is a sequence of phrases that must be said in order. Tears of Dawn, something strong, work in the morning. Suddenly, the bartender realized Roman was speaking the code, and a look of horror crossed his face. He yelled, everyone attack. The surrounding men immediately rushed Roman, shouting, that bastard. Kill him. Someone else shouted, call the guards. The battle was swift. Roman quickly took down 3 attackers. The remaining opponents were stunned, asking, what happened? They recognized Roman, but noted, he's different from what we heard. Roman in his thoughts revealed the source of Roman's enhanced strength. In a short period of time, the heavenly demon was able to improve Roman's body through martial arts. This improvement came from the greatest technique in the Murim, which increases one's chi simply by breathing. Despite this, the inner voice conceded he was nowhere near his old self. The remaining enemies realized he was fighting, all alone, and resolved to beat him with numbers. Roman smiled confidently, believing opponents like these are nothing more than a small annoyance. Roman finished the fight instantly and turned to the original bald bartender, who was recovering on the floor, saying, "You woke up just in time." "I had just finished up." The bartender, terrified, asked, "Young master, why are you doing this?" Roman replied dismissively, "What a useless question. You're the one who attacked me." He noted that now, it looks like it's just you and me. He finished by saying, "Let's have a talk, shall we?" Captain Jonathan was shown the bloody aftermath and panicked. He wondered if this really something the young master did. Meanwhile, outside the pub, the guards were responding to the commotion. A soldier reported to Captain Jonathan, a survivor from the floor above talked, and he said the young master went to Lawrence. The captain was confused. "What? Why Lawrence?" The soldier explained the reason for Roman's destination. Apparently, Bloodfang's headquarters is in Lawrence. The scene shifts to 1 hour ago. In a grim room, Roman interrogated the bartender, who was now tied up and had already lost 2 of his fingers. Despite the torture, the captive was defiant. "Just kill me. The Bloodfangs will get revenge on you." Roman smiled, admiring the man's resolve. He explained that people who do not fear death and keep their mouths shut through torture are the ones who hold the most valuable information. Since physical pain was ineffective, Roman sought a different threat. "Let's see if there's really no threat that can get you to crack," he said. He then produced a framed photo of a young boy and delivered his threat. "What if I said, for example, I find this son of yours, and kill him?" The bartender gasped and tried to deny the boy was his son, but Roman dismissed the lie, noting the clear resemblance. Roman then revealed his analysis of the Bloodfangs organization. All the pub workers had enormous debts to the gang. None of them were vicious by nature, but were driven to become evil demons. The Bloodfangs commit crimes to collect debts and routinely drive people into a corner and take their families as hostage or turn them into slaves. Roman swore on his name he would have his knights find and kill the son slowly and painfully if the bartender remained silent. He gave him a final choice: keep silent and watch his son die, or give up the information needed to destroy the Bloodfangs. At the Bloodfangs headquarters, the grizzled, scarred leader was enraged by the news. All members at the pub branch were taken down by Roman Dmitri alone. He could not believe Roman, who had even been denied enrollment in the Royal Swordsmanship Academy, was that strong. He believed it was a power play by House Dmitri. When informed that Roman had left Dmitri territory and was now alone, the leader realized Roman must have gotten information about the Dew of Dawn. He viewed Roman as an arrogant, little brat, who was really underestimating us. "Gather all of our forces," he bellowed. The plan was to kill Roman before the Dmitri Knights could arrive. The leader promised a gruesome death for Roman, swearing to hang his corpse in town so that everyone will fear the Bloodfangs once again. At the same time, the nobles of House Lawrence were holding a tense war council. Their rival, House Barco, had taken out a sizable loan from Gold Bank, a clear sign they were preparing for war. The situation was dire, compounded by the central government taking Barco's side. A noble worried they would have to give up their fertile land, but the Lord of Lawrence refused. "The only thing I refuse to give up is our land." They knew that losing their land would lead to the other houses tearing them apart, like hyenas. The nobles concluded that Barco would not compromise, and they had no choice but to lock our doors and prepare to retaliate. The Lord of Lawrence then revealed his ultimate, desperate measure, the arranged marriage. "That's exactly why I arranged Flora to be married off to House Dmitri," he confessed. He pinned their hopes on House Dmitri, who, despite their commoner descent, were well-known millionaires in the East. He believed Dmitri's wealth was greater than anything Barco could borrow. With a quiet sigh, the Lord confirmed his painful sacrifice. "That's why I sent my only daughter to marry that dimwit Roman. It was all for the sake of the land of Lawrence." Lady Flora Lawrence, consumed by anxiety, wrestled with an agonizing decision. "How do I tell him this?" she muttered, gulping. The engagement, a political maneuver to save House Lawrence from war with House Barco, was settled, and the deed is done. Yet, the idea of marrying Roman Dmitri, whom she considered a dimwit, was unbearable. "No, Flora, this is your life. You can't let yourself get sold off to a dimwit like that." She was adamant. "There's no way I could marry some man that I don't even love." However, her personal feelings clashed with her responsibility to her family. "But what about father's plans? And the future of our family?" Taking a moment to gather her courage, Flora hardened her resolve. "No, I need to tell him," she decided, and rushed to the meeting room. She interrupted her father's conversation with a polite, "Oh, good afternoon, Lady Flora." The Dmitri Knights breached the gates. Just as Flora was about to speak, a servant burst into the room with catastrophic news. "My lord. Bad news. Outside the Lawrence estate, the Dmitri Knights were staging an aggressive arrival." "Hey, I said, open up." The captain of the Dmitri Knights roared at the gate. A Lawrence guard desperately tried to maintain order. "I told you, if you want to enter, disarm yourselves and follow the protocol." The captain dismissed the formality and issued a chilling threat, driven by Roman's mysterious disappearance. "If anything bad happens to Lord Roman, we're coming for you." As the knights prepared to force their way past the guards, a junior soldier raced up to the captain, his eyes wide with a new, even more urgent alarm. "Captain, bad news." The new report halted the confrontation at the Lawrence gates. Roman was causing a huge uproar at Lawrence Square. The captain, linking the commotion to his lord, resolved to immediately bust down those doors to reach the location. In the square, Roman stood over the Bloodfang's leader, who was dragging his body and pleading for mercy. The leader, in a broken internal monologue, recalled his impossible defeat. A single, moronic noble, had overpowered dozens of armed men, making him realize, "I'm going to die." The leader desperately begged Roman, offering to become a dog and serve you for the rest of my life, if his life was spared. Roman met the plea with cold finality. "You should have said that, before you bared your fangs at me," he stated, and silenced the man with a finishing blow. Roman then addressed the assembled citizens. Identifying the slain man as the widely known scumbag, leader of the Bloodfangs, Roman declared his public intention to clean up the realm. "The crimes of Bloodfang are clear," he announced, "and thus, in front of you all, I will pull out the root of evil." The violent, public execution cemented Roman Dmitri's transformation into a decisive, powerful, and terrifying force against the criminal underworld.